Beit Lahia, Gaza Strip, January 5, 1996. At 7:52 in the morning, the confirmation arrives. Package delivered. Target has the phone standing by. 3 floors below a Tel Aviv office, a team lead checks his watch. The target, Yahya Ayyash, known as the engineer, calls his father every Friday between 8 and 8:30. 1 window, 1 shot. The handset, a common Motorola model with a small explosive mass molded into the battery bay, is armed and ready. It is the same phone they tried 6 weeks earlier. It is the same phone that failed. At 8:17 in the morning, the phone rings in Osama Hamad's small concrete house in Beit Lahia. Osama glances at the screen. It is your father. Ayyash takes the phone in his right hand and presses it to his right ear. Father. My son, are you well? Ayyash. I am well. How are you, father? Father. We pray for you. Did you sleep? Ayyash. A little. Tell mother I will call again later. In Tel Aviv, an operator watches the waveform and waits for a clean confirmation. At 8:17 and 24 seconds in the morning, the command is sent. The micro-detonator fires. The charge shatters the right side of his head and leaves the left side untouched. Osama, less than a meter away, staggers with ringing ears, but no visible injury. 9 seconds pass from ring to neutralization. The hunt is over. To understand why this moment mattered, you have to know who Yahya Ayyash was and what he had done. He was born in Rafat in 1966, quiet, focused, gifted with his hands. As a boy, he took apart radios and televisions to see how current moves and sound appears in a speaker. As a teenager, he joined circles tied to the Muslim Brotherhood. In 1988, he enrolled at Birzeit University to study electrical engineering. He was methodical and precise, active in the Islamic bloc on campus, intent on mastering circuits and power systems. He hoped to pursue a graduate degree in Jordan. The visa was denied. He chose another path. He joined Hamas. In the early 1990s, he became part of what would be known as the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam Brigades, the organization's armed wing. He brought knowledge that multiplied harm. He taught militants how to build explosives from common materials such as acetone and hydrogen peroxide, producing TATP, the volatile compound nicknamed Mother of Satan. He taught measurement, mixing, stabilization, and the methods for attaching a charge to a human body so it would detonate on cue with maximum casualties. In 1993, he moved from theory to practice. April 16, 1993, Mahola Junction in the Jordan Valley. A Hamas operative approaches soldiers and detonates an explosive vest. The bomber dies. An Israeli is injured. It is not a mass casualty attack, but it is a first. It is the first Palestinian suicide bombing. The explosive was designed and assembled by Ayyash. From that day, the tempo changes. April 6, 1994, Afula. A car bomb explodes during the morning rush. 8 people are killed and 55 injured. October 19, 1994, Tel Aviv. A suicide bomber boards the number 5 bus on Dizengoff Street at 9 in the morning. 22 people die and 50 are injured. December 25, 1994, Jerusalem. A bomber detonates at a bus stop, killing 13 and wounding more than 100. By the end of 1994, the attacks connected to Ayyash had killed about 100 civilians and injured more than 400. He was not only planning, he was building the bombs, training the bombers, and often attaching the devices to their bodies himself. He was a force multiplier. Israeli intelligence understood the difference quickly. If Hamas lost a fighter, they recruited another. If they lost a commander, they promoted someone else. If they lost the engineer, they would lose a technical edge that turned people into weapons at scale. Shin Bet made him public enemy number 1. The hunt accelerated in 1994 after Afula. Surveillance teams tracked him across the West Bank. Human sources looked for safe flats. Signals teams chased every lead they could. He moved every few days, avoided phones, avoided patterns, and traveled in disguise when he had to. He knew he was hunted, and he knew how to stay out of sight. Later that year, he was smuggled into Gaza. Operating there was harder, more hostile, more insular, yet the strip was smaller and more contained. If you could find him, you might be able to corner him. The search needed leverage. The break came from an unexpected angle. Osama Hamad provided safe rooms for high-value guests. His uncle was a pragmatic businessman, not driven by ideology. He understood that loyalty can be negotiated. Shinbet approached him with money and visas for his family. In exchange, they wanted access to Osama's phone. He handed it over and took the deal. Whether he guessed the ultimate purpose or not, he did not ask. The path to the room opened. The technical team had to build a device that looked and behaved like a normal phone, yet held enough explosive to guarantee a kill while confining damage to the person who answered it. They selected a common Motorola model. They molded about 15 grams of RDX into a custom battery housing. They added a micro-detonator and a receiver that could be triggered by a specific signal sent from Israel. The phone dialed and rang and felt right in the hand. Tests confirmed function and a tight lethal radius of about 12 centimeters. The device was as precise as anything the service had built. Now it had to reach the target. One insight made the plan possible. Ayyash did not own a mobile phone, but every Friday morning he borrowed Osama's to call his father in the West Bank. It was the one ritual that remained, a pattern he had not broken. Routine is the enemy of survival. Some rituals run deeper than fear. The team would deliver the rigged phone to Osama's house and make sure there was no other option in the room. The uncle was instructed to cut the landline. When the call came, the handset would be used. Thursday night, December 28, 1995, the phone arrived. The landline was cut. Friday morning, December 29th, the call came at 8:15. Osama handed the phone to Ayyash, who pressed it to his right ear. In Tel Aviv, the signal was sent. Nothing happened. He finished the call and handed the phone back, unaware he had just survived a kill attempt. Within a day, the handset was back in the lab. A robotic cradle held the case while technicians opened it. They found a severed lead between the earpiece and the detonator. The connection had shaken loose in transit. The circuit did not complete. They repaired the fault, tested again, and sent the device back out. Thursday, January 4, 1996, the phone returned to Gaza. By morning, it sat on a small table by Ayyash's mattress. At 8:17 in the morning, the phone rang. Osama checked the screen and said, "It is your father." Ayyash hesitated only because he was half asleep. He took the phone, right hand, pressed it to his ear, and spoke. In Tel Aviv, the operator sent the command. The detonator fired. The shock wave outran nerves and thought. The right temporal lobe was destroyed. The left side of his face was untouched. Osama felt the pressure wave and staggered, but remained unhurt. Neighbors heard the blast and ran to the doorway. Within minutes, the street filled. Senior Hamas figures arrived quickly, among them Mohammed Daif. Israeli intelligence watched and had the technical means to strike again, but no authorization came. The moment passed. News moved faster than sirens. The name of the dead man passed from doorway to doorway. Within an hour, it was on Israeli radio and on Palestinian radio. Reporters repeated what they heard from officials or from friends. They repeated too fast and then corrected themselves. The fact that mattered was simple. The bomb maker was dead, killed by a phone that someone close handed to him. The method felt intimate and cold at the same time. In Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, in towns far from the borders, mothers who had buried children looked up at screens and felt something that did not fit in a sentence. The face of the bomb maker appeared in a corner of the frame. The headline used his nickname. The anchor's voice was even. The pictures were not. In one apartment, a refrigerator hummed, and a photo leaned at an angle on a shelf. The boy in the photo wore a school uniform and a grin that took your guard down. The parents watched the news in silence. They did not speak about justice or revenge. They did not say the name of the device. They watched and tried to breathe. In Gaza, crowds gathered. Some called the bombmaker a martyr. Some looked at the broken room and thought about their own sons and daughters. In one house, a man pointed to a tiny piece of plastic that lodged in the plaster. He said he understood what happened, but did not understand how the phone knew his friend's ear from any other ear. In cafes, the talk turned to the spy who opened the door, the uncle who wanted documents, the nephew who trusted too easily, the handler who said the device was only a bug. Rumor ran faster than fact and left bruises in places the cameras never saw. Targeted killings always ignite an argument. One side says you remove a man who is planning mass murder and you save lives that would otherwise be lost. You do it with tools that keep risk low for bystanders. The other side says you ignite a cycle that burns hotter the next week. You remove one actor and harden 10 more. You turn a militant into a symbol, and symbols do not die. The answer in the moment is tactical. The answer in the long term is strategic and moral, and good people disagree about where the balance lies. 40 days later, a bus in Jerusalem was torn open. The route was familiar. The number on the front was familiar. A second bus was hit days later. In Tel Aviv, outside a mall, a bomber tried to enter and instead detonated near the street. It was a season of funerals. Police tape again cut across sidewalks. Reporters learned how to speak while standing next to twisted metal without losing their voices. The bomb maker was dead. The knowledge he spread lived on in the hands of others. The policy that took him out was judged by parents who lifted small coffins and by ministers who counted votes. Focus again on the phone. Not the symbol, the thing. A printed circuit board the size of a matchbox. A battery shape that holds a charge long enough to wait. A thin smear of explosive that breaks apart the earpiece and drives fragments in a tight cone. A receiver that listens for a coded pulse. An arming logic that requires a live call. A failsafe that keeps the phone inert in a pocket or a drawer. A lethal path that opens only when voice, line, and code line up. Nothing about this is magic. It is the patient application of electronics to a very old problem: how to strike a man who hides among friends without killing the friends. Technicians worked at benches and wrote test results in small block letters. Case officers sat in cars and learned how to read a shrug at a doorway. Pilots flew circles and listened to audio while keeping an eye on fuel. Lawyers argued about thresholds. Ministers argued about the map and the hour. The men and women in the middle carried the worry that the room would not be empty at the wrong second. The only comfort they allowed themselves was a short list of names that might be alive next month if the target was gone. It is easy to call the uncle and the nephew traitors or victims. Human life refuses neat labels. The uncle had reasons that looked like a ledger. He weighed what he would get against what he would risk, and he told himself a story that made the choice bearable. The nephew appeared careless, the kind of person who hosts a guest and lends a phone because life in a hard place trains you to be transactional. The friend who opened the door to the room believed he did nothing wrong. He offered tea and a place to sleep. He did not touch the phone. He did not know. The operation turned on small gestures. A nod, a past object, a wordless understanding that this is how things are done this week. The handset changed hands the way keys change hands. Trust is rarely one act, it is 100 small acts in a row, and one break undoes it all. Technology never outruns the human voice. The reason this method worked is simple. A father says a name the way only a father does. A son answers the way only a son answers. The waveform on a scope can match patterns. A person on a headset can match the memory of a cadence that agents have studied for months. There is a tenderness in the first second of a call like that. It is not romantic to say so. It is simply true. The operation used that tenderness. That is why it unsettled even those who planned it and defend it. A wire is clean. A voice is not clean. It is intimate. After the failed try, some argued to abandon the method. There were too many variables and too much public risk if someone else died. Others argued that if it worked, it would confine damage to the target. A car bomb is less precise. A commando raid risks a firefight and a chain of casualties. The phone, used in the right second, has a smaller radius. The decision made sense on paper. It also made sense to people who had held the hands of the wounded in past weeks. To understand why approval came when it did, look inside the rooms that planned it. A joint cell from Shin Bet, Unit 8200, and Air Force Operations met daily. Legal counsel sat at the table. 2 signatures were required for any trigger. The protocol set 3 gates before a go. Source of the call confirmed. The father's voice and the son's reply matched to reference clips, and the room sounded clear of a third person. Analysts built a pattern of life from market days, mosque times, power cuts, and the father's schedule, then marked the safest 5-minute windows. Hardware teams dropped candidate handsets from pocket height, weighed batteries to the gram, and rejected models that felt wrong in the hand. The fax concept was shelved. The phone plan moved to the front of the board. The method carries a cold lesson. Security rises or falls on people. The bomb maker knew circuits and concealment, yet a small habit and a familiar voice undid him. He trusted a room because he trusted a face. A greeting finished the circuit the engineers had built. Afterward, teams watched the curve lines. Did attacks fall or rise? Did rival leaders move? Did a funeral become a rally? The picture was mixed. In the following weeks, buses and a mall were hit. Grief turned harder. Some said the kill saved lives. Others said it bought today at the cost of tomorrow. Families who buried their dead did not debate. They carried photos that wore thin at the edges. One operator later wrote that the first word on the line still returns at night. Duty felt necessary. The method felt cruel. He would do it again. He wished he had not needed to. Most people never face that arithmetic, and those who do rarely speak about it. In the flat, paint now covers a scar on the wall. The phone is gone. Another sits on the same table. Children argue in the corridor over a rolling ball. The nephew married. The uncle moved. People still ask what he did and why. He says he did what he had to for his family and says nothing more. Memory in a hard place stays private. Elsewhere, services studied the case and adapted the idea. The lesson is not the gadget, it is the human fuse. To break a network, find the weekly call nobody cancels and the cup of tea nobody refuses. Security is not only walls and passwords, it is the habit you never examine. No chart captures the moment a father learns that his last word also unlocked a switch. He did not cause the death. His son's choices built the path. The team built the trigger. Love turned into a key. Even those who believe lives were saved should feel the scrape of that edge. A country that stops feeling it becomes smaller. 2 truths sit side by side. The bomb maker bears responsibility for murder. The method that killed him used a private bond. It is certain that more attacks might have followed if he had lived, and also true that his death helped fuel some that did follow. Policymakers live in that tension. Citizens inherit it. Parents need sleep and do not get it. Life resumes. Buses run. A boy gives his seat to a woman with a heavy bag. Security guards lean on rails and keep their eyes moving. In Gaza, shops sell tea glasses and batteries. In Israel, families light memorial candles. On an inventory line, the phone becomes an empty entry. The story's shape remains, a harmless object, a voice that unlocked it, a second that ended the hunt. Tradecraft moved on. In 2020, near Absard, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh was killed by a remotely operated system inside a truck. In 2024, across Lebanon and Syria, pagers and later walkie-talkies exploded in coordinated waves, seeded over time, and triggered on command. The principle stayed the same. Place the instrument close, choose the moment, confine the damage. Why not always use such precision? Because it demands time, exquisite intelligence, and patience. Airstrikes are faster and scale more easily, and they carry heavier costs paid by people who are not the target. That trade-off is real to those who live under the flight paths. Back in Beit Lahia, at 8:17 and 24 seconds in the morning, a son spoke to his father and died 9 seconds later. About 15 grams of explosive in a familiar device ended the engineer's life. The asset who delivered the phone never met the operator who sent the signal. The father heard a last word, and then silence. On a diagram, the operation is clean. In the world, it settles into families and streets that keep going after the microphones are gone. This is what lethal precision looks like. A device that feels ordinary, a routine that never breaks, and a team that will wait as long as it takes for one clean second.